Hey Gators and sports fans, get all your Gator talk, news, analysis, and opinions on the Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast platform or watch us on Facebook Live between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. every weekday. Pod Up, because we are Gator fans. So say, it's great to be a Florida Gator.
And welcome to a Thursday edition, Christmas Eve special here on Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. We got a good show lined up for you today. It's Thursday. It always means Brent Beaird. We'll be talking college football. And then we've got a special guest, Jeffrey Meldon from Meldon Law will join us in the second portion of the show. Talk about all the stuff that he does for high school sports in our area. But first, let's go to the Titan MR hotline, and we're joined by our good friend Brent Beaird. You can follow him on Twitter at Brent Beaird. Good morning, Brent. How are you?
Shane, doing well. Merry Christmas to you and yours and all of our listeners. Glad to be with you. It may be the holiday, Shane, but there's a bunch going on, is it not?
It really is. And Brent, before we get to what's going on in college football, I just want to get your thoughts. What you thought about the SEC championship game. My personal thoughts are, I thought Florida showed a lot of grit. You know, when they were down 17 or 18 points, they could have hung their hats, but man, they battled hard.
Listen, they did. And when we talked last week, I really thought Florida would play very well, and that they could take it to the fourth quarter. And they were able to do that. Trask and the receivers came up big. Kyle Pitts coming back obviously was absolutely huge. I thought the game turned in the third quarter when Alabama had at least a couple of 3-and-outs. And frankly, Shane, if Florida has the ball with, say, a minute or man, I would even say 30 seconds to go, I'm not sure that the way they were clicking offensively that they would not have even scored on their last drive. So, but I mean, Shane, imagine for just a minute if they had beaten LSU and they were in that game not only to win an SEC championship, if that was the case with only, say, it was only one loss, and that they'd be battling for the playoffs at that point. And how exciting would that have been during that time too? So I thought it was a tremendous effort by Florida, and really just wish that they would have had something similar to the previous week. It would have been even more meaningful.
Yeah, absolutely. Brent, you're a Heisman Trophy voter, correct?
Right.
And I'm not going to ask you who you voted for because you can't tell us until after the award is given. But, I mean, good gracious, a few weeks ago, Trask was the favorite. You look today, the favorite is Devontae Smith and Mac Jones. Trask is the second-team All-SEC quarterback. He's not even your offensive player of the year in the conference. Having said all that, do you think he still has a chance to win the Heisman?
Yeah, I do. At least I'll say this, and the finalist list comes out tonight, as a matter of fact, and I think he very well, at least, will be one of the finalists. Now, again, the finalists, there are only three guys who are. It used to be it was like five. Now it's gotten to be the top three vote getters, and again, the award will not be handed out until January the 5th, which obviously is the latest. It's basically a month later than what you would normally have it. But look, Trask had an incredible year. I mean, when you look at the numbers, 43 touchdowns, only 5 interceptions. Shane, I don't know if we'll see that ever duplicated again. Do you? I mean, it's just a phenomenal year. So yes, I'm really hoping he gets in the top three to be one of the finalists.
Yeah, I would be. If he ain't one of the top three, I don't know what's going on. However,
really,
you know, a lot of people out there, you know, the way Trevor Lawrence played last week, know he missed some games. Who knows if he's going to be in the mix? It's amazing to me. What's amazing to me about the All-SEC team is, Brent, initially I thought this was what the media folks voted on, and sometimes media folks, well, I guess it would only be the people in the SEC, so they get to see a lot of the games. But It was the coaches that voted on this, and I was very surprised at it.
Yeah, well, and look, when we say we've got a coach's vote, what that basically means is oftentimes the sports information people are actually coming up with various scenarios, and the coach picks kind of the one that he wants. And let's be honest, when these coaches vote, the reality is, how many other games besides their own, Shane, do they actually see? So I think that's what you see a lot of times would be your sports information people. So that's why it's often going to be different than what you would get if it was one of the sports writers.
Yeah. At Center State Bank, we put business first. We're the largest community bank in the state of Florida and understand that small businesses need a community business partner that they can rely on. Center State has 4 convenient Alachua County locations to serve you better. Center State Bank, member FDIC. We're speaking on this Christmas Eve edition with Brent Beaird. You can follow him on Twitter at Brent Beaird, and we're coming to you live from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. All right, Brent, coaching carousel. Some coaches have been hired. I'm not sure if there's any jobs still opening. Give us a rundown of what has transpired in the last few days.
Well, as of yesterday, we can throw Terry Bowden's name in the list. Yes, that Terry Bowden, who was at Akron and at Auburn at Louisiana Monroe. We've had Auburn hire Bryan Harsin from Boise State, and frankly, some people may not know, Brent Beaird was hired over the weekend in Illinois, and Jed Fish was hired at Arizona. So that's kind of what we've got at this point. None other Power 5 jobs are open. I'm sure there probably will be some, maybe in case we get a retirement or in case we get something unforeseen happen. But that's kind of what we've got right now. Shane Beamer, obviously, at South Carolina, Lee at Vanderbilt, or some of the ones that people may remember that have happened too. And Butch Jones at Arkansas State, from the Alabama staff, that he was hired. Kane Womack at South Alabama, Utah State, Blake Anderson. Shane, are there some real surprises in there to you? It's been an interesting carousel so far, hasn't it?
Well, gosh, some of these smaller schools, probably not. You always knew Butch Jones would be a head coach again. And
yeah. Right.
He's going to Arkansas State, where it doesn't matter who coaches there. Eventually, you're going to get a big job. Everybody does. Yeah, you are.
That's right.
The Bryan Harsin deal from Boise surprised me a little bit, and you probably have more information. I guess, here's the thing. Bill Clark from UAB supposedly interviewed for Auburn and went real well. You had Billy Napier. You had all these other guys. Mm-hmm. Were they really offered the job, or did they come out and just say, I'm not interested? You never know what the truth is there. But I'm still very surprised at Auburn's hire.
Well, they kind of backed into this, but at the same time, and I'm curious if you know him. Okay, he was 69-19 at Boise, 3 Mountain West Conference titles. He's had 4 out of 6 seasons a 3,000-yard quarterback. Now, again, to me, their better hire would have been Bill Clark from UAB or Billy Napier from Louisiana. Mm-hmm. Now, Steve Sarkisian from Alabama, my understanding, did not interview, and he'll also get a big raise for it, probably, now get this, Shane, as offensive coordinator for Alabama. What we're hearing is, and it may not be this much, but we're hearing anywhere from $3 million to $3.5.
Well,
what about that for coordinator?
That's a lot of money, but I tell you what, He's worth it because he's dialed up some ball plays this year.
Yeah, listen, he really has. And Shane, that the play where Miller Forster, the tight end, got the direct snap under center for the first down. I'm curious how many high school coaches will be using that coming up in a few months. But here's the reality for Bryan Harsin is he is the first head coach with no SEC experience or any experience in the state of Alabama that has coached at Auburn since 1948. So now, Shane, you understand there's a learning curve, right? When you come into the league, particularly in recruiting, and to know how, let's be honest, how cutthroat and competitive recruiting is going to be. And the other problem that Bryan probably hadn't faced yet is there's a lot of infighting at Auburn among the major boosters. That's no surprise for us. We've heard that for years, and it happened again in this hire. So those are, I think, the two things that he's going to have to adjust to the most. Look, for X's and O's, I think he'll be okay. I think he's a pretty good football coach. But Shane, my question to you is, can he deal with the recruiting and the problem they've got internally in the program?
Well, it just seems like there's a lot of hands in the cookie jar at Auburn.
There are.
So I don't know. I wish him luck. I do think he's a good football coach. I just don't know if he's the right person for Auburn. We shall see. Brent, let's talk real briefly. You know, we're not going to keep you long today because it's Christmas Eve and all that good stuff. But, you know, Dan Mullen gets slapped with the level 2 show calls. You know, we talked about this yesterday on my show. It's kind of confusing. I personally don't see why this is a show cause. Maybe I'm being naive. What are your thoughts on this whole situation, and kind of give us a rundown of what's going on?
Well, it surprised me, too, that the sanctions were mostly older incidents that happened. Now, there was and correct me here if I'm wrong, but one of the things that's really made the press was they had like 7 teams that visited the campus and toured the football facilities. Yep. I mean, to you and me, is that a big deal? Frankly, no. But I'm sure visiting facilities with that many kids, the NCAA would look upon that with a down view.
Brent, I don't want to interrupt you, but I talked about this yesterday. I can't tell you how many times friends of mine, whether I know them or know someone that knows them, that their kids on a travel 7-on-7 team, driving from Chicago, going down to Orlando for some tournament. Hey, can you make a call and let our guys, you know, get a tour and let them take pictures in the swamp? Okay, so you got a busload of kids from the Chicago area or wherever, and Dan Mullen walks out of the weight room just after he had a workout and says hello to a couple of kids. I guess that's a violation.
Well, look, the NCAA unfortunately would consider that to be a violation, and you know whether you look at that as some variation of the bump rule when you go to a school and just kind of bump into a kid. Look, these are things that really need to be dealt with. I mean, I was quite surprised, but again, here's the reality of this, Shane. Is we've got a dead period now until next April. It's not like January. It's in April. So the reality is no one's going out anyway. Right. So I understand how important it is to go out and evaluate. The coaches have not been able to do that in quite a while. Look, is this a real big deal? I don't think it is. Frankly, it sounds like they were all on kind of the compliance, AD, coaching staff all worked together with this, and I'm sure they learned from it with that. And look, some of these things are frankly fairly innocent that happen. That people get nailed for. That's what's so incredible about it. But again, I mean, when we talk about him not being able to do off-campus recruiting, but the reality is when you're a lot of your evaluations, Shane, are happening, as we remember, in March and April and May, when we got spring football, and they're basically not going to be able to do that right now anyway.
Yes. Speaking of that, any new news about spring ball? Is it canceled this year?
No, it's too early to know. And that's a really good question. I think that's going to be huge for these teams if they can have spring football. And, Shane, the reality is, for that matter, as we know, in January starts off-season programs. So hopefully they'll be able to get back, and I'm sure these schools have already dealt with this. And as far as and I'm hoping that they'll. I mean, it may be a little bit later than it normally is, but it's still too early to know anything about that.
Brent, the transfer portal, I'm sure, is filling up fast.
Oh yes.
I don't know if the average person can go on there and look and see who's all in there, but a couple of the Gators have thrown their names into the portal. Can you tell us who?
Yeah, you've had Chester Kimbrough, who is a sophomore cornerback. He had 7 tackles, and Josiah Pierre, and I may be mispronouncing that, he's a linebacker. So those are a couple of the guys who are transferring. I think, listen, this transfer portal is going to have hundreds of names in it, and already has hundreds of names in it. So, and the thing we got to remember too is not only do we have this transfer portal going on, but we've also got next year in 2021 is going to be the year. And I don't know the exact date that it starts, but Shane, you remember that everybody's going to get basically a free waiver to transfer to wherever they want to, or at least it will go in effect at that point. So, listen, roster management, Shane, for these coaches is going to be a real challenge. Say, for instance, you've got some of your upperclassmen that say, hey, look, our eligibility did not count against us. Why don't we come back? And you've got a handful of guys that you normally thought would be leaving who are actually going to be staying. And then you've got midterm guys coming in. You've got freshmen to deal with. So you can see, Shane, listen, it's not going to be easy in deciding who and who not on that roster in the coming months.
No, you're exactly right. It's going to be extremely difficult. Brent, we got about 3 or 4 more minutes left. Give us some nuggets. You know, we'll talk to you again next week before the 14 playoff. Obviously, Florida's going to play next Wednesday, I believe, against Oklahoma. Pitts is out. I'm sure a couple other seniors may opt out. We haven't heard yet. Just give us some good nuggets up until next week. Yeah.
And listen, one thing that you and I have talked about early on is the attrition on the LSU coaching staff, and they've had quite a bit over the last few days. And for instance, they have got Scott Linehan, who you may or may not know, he is leaving. And also Ensminger, basically called the offensive coordinator, he is retiring. There's no surprise to any. Bo Pelini will not be back. So they've got several people on that defensive staff, along with Linehan on the offensive staff, who they will not be back. And again, we've got to watch this very closely. And I'm not saying this is going to happen, but in this Title IX case, if this falls all on Ed Orgeron's shoulders, that's going to be a real issue to look at too. You talked about opt-outs. Georgia playing Cincinnati in the Peach Bowl. Now these are just some of the guys who may not play. Ben Cleveland on the offensive line, Monty Rice at linebacker, Trey McKitty at tight end, Richard LeCount in the secondary, and maybe even also there Eric Stokes. So they're going to have multiple guys who are going to end up being out before it's over. And by the way, I know this is not SEC, but I'm going to throw it in real quick. For Florida State, they've had a couple of transfers of note. Jarquez McClellan, a defensive back from Arkansas, who is pretty good, is transferring in. But the big deal for them is going to be Mackenzie Milton, from UCF, who in 3 years threw for 9,000 yards when he was healthy at UCF. He's coming in. By the way, this is the first time in school history, Shane, at Florida State that they only had two players on the first. You have first team, second team, and third team on the first three all conference teams, and nobody from the offensive side of the ball.
Wow!
And a quick Miami note: they play Oklahoma State. Their two big opt-outs are going to be Jalen Phillips and Quincy Roche at defensive end. Real quick, Miami, if they win this bowl game, they're 1-9 in their last 10 bowls. If they win, it means they'll be 9-2. The last time Miami had two or fewer losses, Shane, was 2003.
Wow. That's hard to believe. 17 years ago.
They've had now, obviously, they lost their bowl game last year. We mentioned the bowl game record. Their last bowl win in the last 14 years was West Virginia in 2016. So, unfortunately for Cane fans, Shane, those numbers kind of tell you where Miami has been, or maybe better, not have been over the last few years.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, Brent, we appreciate everything you've been doing, my man. Y'all have a great Christmas. We'll talk to you next week. And
Shane, who knows what's going to happen between Christmas Eve and next Thursday when we talk on New Year's Eve, right?
That is so true. So true. Be safe, my man, and we'll talk to you next week.
Merry Christmas, pal. Thanks.
That's Brent Beaird. Join us on the Titan MR hotline. Refresh your vehicle and your brand with a vehicle wrap from WrapSpot. December is your lucky month at WrapSpot. Mention promo code Shane and receive 13% off your vehicle wrap. We're going to take our first time out of the pro. When we come back, we'll be joined by Jeffrey Meldon from Meldon Law, talking about all the great things he does with high school athletics here in our area. You're watching Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back.
Hey Gators, this is Coach Steve Spurrier. Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp. Comfort is our business. Peace of mind is our promise. Celebration Point Town Center. Center State Bank. Chris Doring Mortgage. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union. Adams Ribs. Doreen Wiebe Realtor Caldwell Banker MM Parish. Gator Dominoes. Celebrate Primary Care. Davis Gainesville Chevrolet. Miapa Latin Cafe. WrapSpot. Okido America. Gators Dockside. Radware for all your promotional needs. Style Cuts. Ironwood Golf Course. TB Financial. Meadowbrook Golf Course. Dar Shakow Insurance. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, you can visit our website, potupwithshane.com, and click the Advertise button or call Freddie at 352-284-3733. Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to this Christmas Eve edition of Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. At Comfort Temp. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. This month, get a free annual maintenance plan with every residential duct cleaning purchase, which is a $199 value. Service departments open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for your convenience. This day in sports, back in 1982, Chaminade, with a student body of only 850 students, upsets the number one ranked Virginia Cavaliers 77-72 in the Honolulu Holiday Basketball Classic, which now is called the Maui Invitational. I remember watching that actually when I was a youngster at 12 years old. But that's This Day in Sports, brought to you by our good friends at Comfort Temp. Now we got a special guest today on our Thursday Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup. We're going to be joined now on the Titan MR hotline by Jeffrey Meldon from Meldon Law. Good morning, Jeffrey. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Shane. How you doing?
Doing great, buddy. Appreciate you joining us today. First of all, I want to thank you. You've been a big part of our program here. We've been doing it for a year now, and Meldon Law has been a big sponsor for us. And Meldon Law, where you matter most, and also the official, the only law firm partner of the Florida Gators, which we'll talk about in a minute. But I just want to thank you for being a part of our program.
Well, thank you, Shane. You were a guest on our podcast recently, and that was a big deal for us. We really appreciated, everything you do.
So we brought you on because on Thursdays I do a high school show, talk about high school football, basketball, all that. It's called the Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup. But you have been really, really involved for a lot of years. You can tell me how many for the Meldon Law Scholar Athlete of the Week. Tell us a little bit about that, when it started, and why you wanted to do it.
Back in 1997. There was a sports scene show on WRUF 850 with Larry Vitale. And Larry and I were working together for a couple of years. I was sponsoring the show. And one time we were sitting down coming up with new ideas. And we came up with this idea of honoring a high school senior scholar athlete every single week. And giving out an award, one male, one female, equal numbers each month. So we started it out, and it kind of, took off. After a couple of years, TV20 came to us and said, you want to partner with us and really make it a big deal and have the scholar athletes interviewed out on their field with their coaches and teammates. And that was probably around 2000. So I think we've been doing this 24 years.
That's awesome. So how do you go about, are you the one that specifically picks who wins each week? Or do you have like a little committee that sits down and studies? Because, how do you determine if you got a couple of tennis players that have a 4.4 GPA? How do you determine who gets the award?
Well, the bottom line is the coaches for each of the schools, we reach out to them and they help us identify who the talent is. Back in the 1990s, I actually was doing it myself. I had a law clerk in the office and he'd go and do some research. And finally, when TV20 took over, they have a high school sports reporter. So we work closely with TV20 and their sports reporter who reaches out to the all the coaches. However, from the beginning, family members, friends have always been able to reach out to us or to TV20 and identify kids that deserve to be the Meldon Law Scholar Athlete of the Week.
Let me ask you this. So player X wins the Scholar Athlete of the Week, whoever it is from whatever school. What do they get? Is it a plaque? What does Meldon Law provide them?
Well, everybody gets a plaque commemorating their achievement and also a $100 scholarship. And then at the end of the year, in May, we all get together at the Hilton Hotel and have about 200 people there. We invite each of the winners, usually about 35 winners, because we started in September and we go through May. And we have a big banquet at the Hilton Hotel with the winners, their family, coaches, grandmas, grandpas, everybody. And we introduce each winner week by week throughout the year. And then at the end of the program, we pick one male, one female Scholar Athlete of the Year. And the Scholar Athlete of the Year gets an additional $1,000 scholarship plus a big glass trophy. And TV20 is always there live covering it. And it's a big deal. And, we've had some pretty famous scholar athletes over the years.
You got some names you can throw out to our audience?
Yeah. Okay. Let me put my glasses on, Shane. Here, I'll tell you. Okay. CJ Spiller. Okay.
He's pretty good.
I think it was drafted number 6 by Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew Miller, who was a pitcher, came out of Buchholz High School. He pitched for the Yankees, Boston, Cleveland.
Yeah, I think he's still playing, by the way.
Yeah, Andrew. Well, big, tall kid, and he had a great fastball. He started out as a starter, and then kind of morphed into a cleanup pitcher, and really, amazing player. Cornelius Ingram, of course, from Hawthorne. Freddie Swain, who came out of Ocala, and he's playing at Seattle. I think he's gotten himself a spot on the roster out there.
Yep.
And so he's doing good. Of course, there was John Brantley from Ocala, Kavarius Hayes, who played basketball for the Gators, was Meldon Law Scholar Athlete of the Year. There's a great offensive tackle, a guy named Laramie Tunsil, who came out of Columbia County. He just signed this huge contract with the Houston Texans, 3 years, $66 million for a tackle. Okay. Is that incredible or what?
He's got to protect Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
What's the area that you choose from? Is it just like everywhere in North Central Florida?
Yes. I mean, Kavarius Hayes, he was from Suwannee County. That's how far north we've gone. And we've, gone down into, the Dunellen area. This year, one of our Gator recruits, Jay Frazier's from Dunellen, won it. He's a wide receiver, but he's also playing baseball. And so that's kind of cool. But we go down, I would say Citrus County and Marion County is about as far south as we go. And any of the players that are in the North Central Florida area. So it's really an exciting program. But if any of our listeners want to nominate a deserving scholar athlete, either go to meldonlaw.com or call up TV20 or go on the TV20 website, and you can go ahead, and Sierra Clark is the sports announcer who covers the high school sports for TV20.
Well, I know all those deserving young athletes appreciate Meldon Law being a part of that. It's a tremendous thing, no question. I'm curious why my son was never nominated. He was a pretty good student. I'm just kidding. So Jeffrey, let me ask you this: you just recently became the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators. Tell us a little bit about how that came about and basically what it means.
Well, for us, it's a really big honor because there was other law firms that would have liked to become the only official law firm partner, and we were chosen by the Florida Gators, I think in part because of our years of giving back to the community and supporting not only high school athletics, but giving back to the community in many other ways. And we joined forces with the Florida Gators. So, we signed a 4-year contract with the Gators to be involved with them and support the athletic program, which right now does need support. I think we're probably in better shape than most schools, but everything has changed around the world in college sports over this past year. So we were very proud to come forth in their time of need and help them out.
Yeah. What law practices do you guys at Meldon Law specialize in?
Well, we primarily do personal injury cases. Anybody that's involved in a serious accident, we try to help people put their lives back together. And we also have a department that does some criminal defense, but primarily we handle accident cases of all kinds. Most of them are involving cars, big trucks, and other accidents that happen on the road.
So you have offices here in Gainesville, I believe in Ocala. Anywhere else in the state of Florida?
Yeah, we've got a South Florida office down in Fort Lauderdale. My son, Kerry Meldon, runs that office down in South Florida. And we're really excited. We're opening up this big office in Ocala, right on 441 in the center of town. And that should be opening right in the middle of January. We've been working on that project for about 8 or 9 months now. So Meldon Law has gone through this tremendous growth as far as our offices and everything during the last year. And, when COVID hit, we kind of had to make a choice, either, curl up and stop or move forward. And, we've been expanding and doing all kinds of things during this, challenging time.
At Chris Doring Mortgage, they do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today, 352-244-0840. We're speaking with Jeffrey Meldon, one of our partners here on Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning, and he is the official law firm partner of the Florida Gators. And we appreciate him joining us. We got a text on the Titan MR text line. It comes from George. George says, could you ask Jeffrey about his auto insurance book?
Okay. Well, I wrote a book, Buying Florida Auto Insurance. So I always say Florida's the Wild West of auto insurance. Every state in the United States, except Florida and New Hampshire, have mandatory bodily injury liability insurance. And in Florida, folks don't know that the other person that causes a crash probably doesn't have very good insurance, because in Florida, it's not required. So I wrote a book, I think 2007, called Buying Florida Auto Insurance, and it explains a 3-step approach to getting good insurance at a low cost. And every year I update the book, and it's free. You just go to meldonlaw.com and you can get our book, Buying Florida Auto Insurance. But the bottom line is this, Shane: you got to get uninsured motorist coverage, because chances are the other person that hits you isn't going to have very good insurance.
We got another text here. It comes from Emily. Emily wants to know, did Jeffrey play high school sports?
Well, I played on the golf team in Cleveland. I went to Shaker Heights High School, and I did play golf. And, that, I guess that was a good thing, because I could keep playing that for a long time. And, that was about the extent of my high school sports.
How's your golf game right now?
Well, Dr. Pete and I play once in a while, and he could still beat me. And Steve Spurrier was telling me he gives Dr. Pete a half a stroke a hole. So that tells you where my game is.
Well, here's what it is. You're working too much. Those guys are retired.
Yeah, I guess that's it.
Yes. Also got a text here on the Titan MR text line from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. It comes from Larry. Larry would like to know, could you talk about DUI defense?
Okay, so DUI defense, I wrote another book on that, how to avoid a DUI or how to, solve it if you have the misfortune of getting a DUI. And we've done DUI defense. I was chairman of the Florida Bar seminars for 12 years on DUI back in the 1990s. And what we tried to do is we try to help folks that have, either made a mistake or were, charged wrongly. And we found that it really is important. Usually the folks we represent have never been in trouble before, and we try to get them through a tough situation.
We got another text here. The text line's blowing up here. You got a lot of fans out there, Jeffrey. It comes from Tommy. Tommy said, ask him about his son, Kerry. Didn't he play college tennis?
Yeah. So my son, Kerry, graduated Gainesville High School in 1996. And they had never had much of a high school team. And his first year, 1993, for the first time in like 12 years, since there was a fellow named Shelby Cannon who had won the state championship in tennis, and GHS had won a state championship, I think, in 1982. But all of a sudden, this group of tennis players at Gainesville High School started really performing well. And Coach Paul Spradling was out there. He was doing football and tennis. And Kerry started playing tennis at a fairly high level when he was 10 or 11 years old, traveling around the state with our family. And Kerry played #1 singles and doubles for GHS. And in 1996, went down to Tampa, and we were in the finals down there. And Gainesville High School won the state championship in 1996. And then Kerry went on to play Division I tennis at William and Mary.
Oh, wow. Very cool. We're speaking here with Jeffrey Meldon from Meldon Law here on the Titan MR hotline from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We got a couple of Facebook Lives, which are brought to you by Meldon Law, the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators. Dan out in Texas says, thanks for your support of the Gator Nation, Mr. Meldon. And then Fred says, Jeffrey, thanks for supporting our high schools and sponsoring the Florida Gators. So we appreciate you guys listening to the show. So here's something I'm sure all the people want to know about. Word is it that Jeffrey Meldon was Tom Petty's first attorney. What was that all like? What was that? I mean, that had to be interesting, huh?
Yeah, I moved to Gainesville in 1970, and I was kind of a long-haired hippie lawyer, and I hadn't taken the Florida bar yet, so I was doing all kinds of things in the community. And I was working with Tom Petty and his group Mudcrutch, putting together music events, and there was a place called Dubs, which was a bar out in 441 North, and Tom and Mike Campbell, his guitar player, and a couple of the other guys had a place out there, and we put together what was called the Mudcrutch Festivals, and we had two of them out there. One was a one-day festival on the weekend. The other turned out to be a 3-day festival. It was about the closest thing Gainesville ever had to a Woodstock, and we got to be pretty good friends. And then I started practicing law. I opened up my first office in November of 1971, and Tom came to me and said, Jeffrey, you want to, represent us and see what you can do to move our career forward. So here I was, a young lawyer. I didn't know what I was doing, but here I was representing Tom Petty and Mudcrutch. And, what's interesting, Shane, is now it's come full circle because we're one of the major sponsors for the Tom Petty Birthday Bash that occurs every year around October 20th, which is his birthday. And Jason Hedges and Sarah Hedges are involved in a group called Heavy Petty, and they're the producers of this festival, which went international this year on Amazon and Sirius XM. So we're already planning the Tom Petty Birthday Bash for October of 2021.
So did you have, I'm just curious, you got to love at the end of the third quarter in the Swamp when they play Tom Petty. Did you have anything to do with that to try to get them to do it?
No, that was kind of an inspiration. I think it started after Tom passed away in 2017. And, it was funny because I've always liked that song, I Won't Back Down. And now that it's become the Gator song, Meldon Law, actually we're working with the Tom Petty state right now to, put our brand together with their brand. And I think it'd be pretty cool, being able to have Meldon Law all over the Gator Stadium at the end of the third quarter playing Won't Back Down.
Yeah, very cool. I also heard you give away a lot of tickets to the Gator football games, right?
Yes.
And isn't there a way people can go to your website or something and try to win them?
Yeah, just go to meldonlaw.com and in the community section. And we always have free giveaways. This month we've been giving away $25 gift certificates to Harry's Bar and Grill in Gainesville and Ocala to help folks during the holiday season. And whatever. Now that we have our Gator partnership, we're going to be doing a lot of things in the community as far as giving away football tickets, basketball tickets, giving away all kinds of prizes to try to stay involved with our community.
And then also, not only, I mean, you're extremely involved in your work, but with the Gators, as you mentioned, you now started your own little podcast called Meldon Law and Friends. Talk a little bit about that. You've had a long time radio show, I believe, and I'm not sure if you're still doing that or not, but talk about some of the people you've had on your podcast so far.
Well, it was pretty cool. I'm real good friends with Dr. Pete, so I called Dr. Pete up first, and he came on the show, and pretty soon we had Steve Spurrier on the show, and then Pat Dooley when he retired from the Gainesville Sun. Pat came on, and of course you were on. Last week we had Bob Ganzik. Well, actually, the show is going live tomorrow with Bob Ganzik from the Dale Carnegie course. And we've really had an interesting group of people. It's not just sports people. Lizzie Jenkins, who's with the Real Rosewood Foundation, was on it. And what we've tried to do is have two interesting guests every show. It goes live Friday on Facebook, Meldon Law and Friends. And it starts at 1 o'clock on Friday. And it's just a really great experience. And, Freddie Wiebe, who's, helping us produce the whole thing, says that it's one of the hottest new podcasts in the state of Florida.
Yeah, I've heard that as well.
Maybe someday we'll catch up to you.
Well, I don't know about that. You guys are doing a tremendous job. There's no question about that. Celebration Point's where the Gators come to celebrate with premium brands like Bass Pro Shop, Palmetto Moon, Medici's, Nike, The Keys Grill and Piano Bar, opening soon, Dave & Buster's, and coming spring of 2021, the HBC's new restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Visor's Rooftop Bar. We will see you at Celebration Point where the Gators come to celebrate. You going to be hanging out at Spurrier's restaurant, any?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited. When we had Coach Spurrier on, I was asking the coach, I said, well, you've been a football coach for a long time. I said, is there any similarity between putting a restaurant together and, running a football team? And he said, yeah. He said, there's actually a lot of similarity. You got to have a head coach, and you got to have, people that are managing different aspects of it. And I'll tell you, Shane, one of the most impressive things about this Spurrier restaurant is the planning and dedication that whole team is doing to make sure that all Gator fans have an incredible experience when they walk in there.
We got a Facebook Live here brought to you by Meldon Law, the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators. Rick says, how did Jeffrey get Shane on his show on a Friday? That's Shane's golf day. Well, we had to tape it. There's no question. Fridays are my golf day. I won't be playing this Friday, though, because of Christmas. But so, Jeffrey, real quick before we let you go, I know you're a big football fan. Just want to get your thoughts on the Gator season. Kyle Trask, obviously, we've had a great year. It didn't turn out the way we thought. But just your thoughts on how the football team did this year.
Well, look, we beat Georgia. How's that to start? Okay.
That's right.
Because, if you know the history of Florida football, that Florida-Georgia game is always the key game every year because usually the winner wins the SEC East. So I think we had an incredible year. Look, we're in probably one of the more exciting bowl games that's going to be on during the bowl season. I think that game against Oklahoma is an incredible matchup. Mm-hmm. And, if you look at some of the other games, they got Alabama favored by, 18, 20 points over Notre Dame. To me, that's not nearly as exciting as what the Gators are doing in their bowl game, although we're not in the Final Four this year. So next year, we have some more goals to reach, but finally turning things around this year, becoming the SEC champs, playing a hell of a game against Alabama. That was one exciting game, and the Kyle Trask story is an amazing story.
Mm-hmm. It really is. Before we let you go, again, we want to really thank you for being a part of our program. Thank you for what you do for the high school athletes in our area, and let everybody know once again how they can hear your show, watch your podcast, and where they need to visit if they want to try to win some tickets to some games.
Okay, so we're on Facebook. It's Meldon Law and Friends. If you can't remember, just put in, Meldon Law, and we're there every Friday at 1:00. And also, we've been doing our radio show for 19 years on the Sky, WSKY 97.3, every Saturday live at 10:30, and we take live calls on that program. So anytime you have any questions, you can go to Meldon Law, and the answers will be there.
Perfect. Hey, man, happy holidays to you and your family. We appreciate you joining us today. And again, thanks for being a part of our program. And we'll talk to you soon, Jeffrey.
Okay, Shane. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Yep. That is Jeffrey Meldon, the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators. We're going to take our final time out of this program. When we come back, we'll wrap it up. You're watching and listening to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning.
Hey Gators, this is Coach Steve Spurrier. Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. Celebration Point Town Center, Center State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Big Mills Cheesesteaks, MB Listing, Cornerstone Financial, McDonald's Gainesville, My IT Masters, Gainesville Neon and Signs, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie, Chick-fil-A on Archer Road, Aver and Smith Personal Injury Attorneys, Orange Theory Fitness, PRP Regeneration Specialist, and Dowling Signs. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, you can visit our website, potupwithshane.com, and click the advertise button or call Freddie at 352-284-3733. Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to this Christmas Eve edition of Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. I want to thank our great friend Brent Beaird of the program for joining us, talking college football. We'll continue having him on Thursdays. Also, Jeffrey Meldon from Meldon Law, what he does for the high school athletes in North Central Florida, being a part of the Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup today. Don't forget tomorrow, folks, we have a special Christmas edition. It will be taped, so it is strictly from the beginning of the show to the end of the show, Coach Steve Spurrier head ball coach stories by former players that have been on my podcast, media folks. The entire show are going to be Spurrier stories, so it should be a classic. You won't want to miss it. Again, if you can't watch it live in the morning, you can always check it out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. I hope everybody has a Merry Christmas. We'll be back on Monday. We'll start talking about the 14 playoff, but also we'll be forecasting and talking a lot about the OU game. We're going to have Coach Bob Stoops from OU on as well. So again, today's show's a wrap, brought to you by Wrap Spot. Merry Christmas to everyone out there. Be safe, and we will see you tomorrow, and then we'll see you next week. Take care.